Hi and welcome into another video. Today we'll be hopping into AWS Console and spinning up some EC2 instances. The idea today is to go briefly through target groups and load balancing. So we will take those EC2 instances that we will create, wrap them in a target group, and then point a load balancer to it to see how it works and how it can help us. So let's hop into the console and work on that. Alright, so we are in our AWS console. Let's firstly navigate to VPC. It is a sandbox environment, so we have a very basic VPC already spinned up. So we have a VPC with 6 subnets, so 3 public, 3 private in different availability zones. And let's go to security groups, and we can see that we have a default security groups that allows just the traffic from the security group itself. So we will be using HTTP to show how it works. So let's create ourselves a HTTP security group. So allow HTTP SG, allow HTTP. We'll deploy it into this VPC, and we will add a role for HTTP from anywhere. And let's just create it. And now let's go to EC2s, and let's just launch instances. We will call it, let's say, web. We will use Amazon Linux AMI, T2 Micro will be okay. We don't need a keeper, we will not log into this instance. Here we see that auto-assign public IP is enabled, so we will have it. We will select an existing group that we created to access the HTTP. And I will go to advanced details, and at the bottom in user data, we'll create a bash script that will run when the instance starts. And I already prepared that. Have a typo here. I already prepared that. So to go very briefly through that, we are firstly, let's do yum update -y. So we will update all the packages in the system, the list of the packages. Then we will install Nginx, start this Nginx. Then we'll create a public IP variable that will have an output of curl command. So we'll do a get request to check IP Amazon AWS.com. So we will get an public IP in return, and we will just override the default user share Nginx HTML, index HTML with our own, with a title of briefly.dev, welcome to briefly.dev, and public IP will be shown here, so that we will see actually that we are changing the IP with the load balancer. So let's number of instances, let's maybe add 3 here, and let's do launch instances. So now 3 instances will launch. The Nginx on all 3 of them should install. Change the site so that we can see it. So let's wait a moment for it to spin up and for the user data script to run, because it runs after the instance is already in running state and was created. So 2 of them are running. Let's go to one of them. Let's take the public IP, and we will take HTTP// to this public IP, but it maybe will not work for the first time because it needs some time to process the script. So we still see that it can be reached. We'll check it out in like 10 or 20 seconds. It should be enough. All right, and it took like 5 to 10 seconds, and we have our welcome to briefly.dev and our public IP address shown here as a paragraph. So now those 3 instances, we can access them but separately. So now let's wrap them in a target group. So here under load balancing we have target groups, and we'll create a new target group. We'll choose a target of instances. Let's call it a web TG. We'll use a HTTP on port 80, IPv4, VPC, We will do a health check on the main route, and let's click next. So those 3 instances are here shown, and we will take all of them, and we will just include them in a target group. So let's create this target group. So this target group will be created. The health checks will run here in the meantime. But right now, you can always add more targets or the register target from the target group. And let's now go to the load balancers, and let's create a load balancer. We'll take an application load balancer on the HTTP or HTTPS. We don't need a network load balancer for that, and the difference, we will talk about the difference in the future. So let's call it web LB. It will be internet facing, not internal, so private. We will take IPv4. Network mapping, we will take those. We can take VPC, and we can take some availability zones. So let's say we will take those. We'll deploy it in those 3. And then security group, we will use this allow HTTPSG, and we will see listener and routing. We have already it set to HTTP port 80, and we will forward to web TG. We can always add more listeners, like for 443, for HTTPS, and so on. But for now, it will be okay. We will not be using today a WAF or global accelerator. And let's just create this load balancer. It will take a moment for this load balancer to provision. And we will have this DNS name here. So let's just wait some time for it to work. All right, so that took around 5 to 6 minutes to provision and make the status to active. And right now we have our DNS name for our load balancer, and we can open another page and do HTTP to it. And we will see that welcome to briefly.dev from 98.81, 54.236, and 54.209. And it will just go one at a time. So the default load balancer rule for switching up this traffic is the round robin. That's why we are seeing it like one by one in the same order as usual. But there are also different ways to set it up. But this is for a more in-depth video to the load balancers. So that will be all for today. Hope you learned something new, and see you in another one.